All right, we just finished recording podcast episodes. One of our new episodes is 10 things we've learned in 10 years. And in the middle of the episode, Rachel decided that she wanted to create more work for me. Thank you. I'm going to create a personalized sensory diet routine for Rachel's son, Trip.
Now, the reason why she's doing this, if you don't know the backstory, it's because years ago, I gave Jessica a home exercise program to do with Logan when he was like 4 years old because we were struggling to understand why caregivers were having a hard time integrating these home exercise programs into their daily routine. And when I gave it to Jessica, she did it twice and then she never did it again. So we're just flipping the script now that I have a child who's a little bit older, maybe willing to participate. We're going to try it and we're going to just see how it goes, and it's going to be like our own little case study. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Wish us good luck. Okay, home. The first thing I'm going to do is create a checklist that Rachel has to fill out for Trip, and then that will direct the home program and what's in the home program. So what I've done is I made copies of our sensory preference checklist and our primitive reflex checklist. Got Trip's name here, and I'm going to email these to Rachel. She will need to fill them out and email them back, and then I can start creating a home program for them.
All right, Jessica sent me over the paperwork for Trip's home exercise program that she's making. So she sent me our primitive reflex checklist as well as our sensory checklist. So I'm going to fill these out and we'll see where his primitive reflexes are based on the screening as well as where his sensory preferences are. So let's do it. Okay, I have honestly never done one of these checklists for my kids, Trip in particular, because I just feel like I have that, understanding of where we're at. But it was really interesting to do a checklist. Again, this isn't a standardized assessment, but it is just a helpful way of getting people to recognize sensory preferences and kind of what it means. It's a great entrance into the conversation of sensory processing abilities. So I'm going to send this over to Jessica, and then she will get the home exercise program created for us, and we'll see how it goes.
Rachel filled out her checklist for Trip, emailed them back. So I am going to get into them now and see what we're looking at. From there, I can kind of identify what areas Trip is maybe struggling in and gives me an idea of some different activities that I can add into a home program for him. Now, he's 4 years old. He just turned 4 this month in September when we're doing this. So that plays a big factor in the types of activities, the amount, how long, etc. So let's look at the checklist. Okay, so this is the primitive reflex screening checklist that we have in our primitive reflex digital course. He has a few marked off for the Moro reflex, none for the TLR, 2 for the spinal gallant, 1 for the ATNR. Right here is interesting, poor handwriting, possibly. He's 4, so that one's not really applicable in my mind. 2 for the STNR, none for Palmer. He did have a tongue tie release as an infant. I also know a little bit of the history. He also had torticollis, but just looking at this, I will probably give them an activity for the Moro reflex as part of the home program. Now let's look at the sensory preference checklist. This is something that we include in our sensory diet digital course. So we organized our checklist with over-responsive versus under-responsive or sensory seeking and organized them per visual or per sensory system. So in the visual system, it looks like he is a little bit over responsive to visual inputs. It's kind of mixed in vestibular. Nothing really concerning as far as interoception goes. Olfactory, gustatory, maybe a little over responsive, but not really a concern. Maybe a little under responsive to proprioception. A little over responsive to auditory processing. Very limited food rapport, keeping in mind that he's 4 years old, so that is also a factor when it comes to picky eating and food rapport. So looking at this, we might do, a couple of activities related to his visual and vestibular systems, in addition to an activity for the moral reflex. Okay, here is what we've come up with. Really simple Canva template that I like to use for my clients that I work with at the clinic. We've got our activities. Hopefully being able to complete them 2 times a day. I have it set up for 5 days a week here, just because that seems to usually be easier to accomplish for most families. And then there's a second page with instructions. So I'm going to email this to Rachel and see, hopefully how it goes.
So I officially finished the home exercise program.
All of it?
All of it. Wow. Most of it. In the evening, we realized that the morning time, it wasn't happening in the morning, but we did do it in the evening pretty consistently. And I think one of the coolest things was they started to ask for it, and both kids would say, we want to do the sensory diet. And it just became this opportunity to connect and bond.
Well, and the biggest key with that is that you did it with them. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't you asking them, okay, go do this activity, but you engaged with them. You made it playful. It was never something that felt like work to them, which is really important when you're completing sensory exercises or activities, primitive reflex exercises. It always has to be play-based because that's how children learn, is through play. So doing it with them, making it fun and engaging. And as you could see in some of Rachel's videos, she modified some of the activities to fit the needs of Trip and Austin, who also did it with them. But that made it more successful, even though it wasn't perfect. It wasn't 100% according to script. It still met the needs of what he met, like his needs, and still addressed the areas that we were looking to address.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the hardest part was the neck flexion while we were working on the supine therapy ball kicks. So we were really trying to hold our head up. Austin was even trying to do it. And the other cool thing is, Austin's only 2 and she was doing this activity with us. I realized that she knows her letters. And I was just like, since when? Like, who are you? And it was really cool to see that and to see the two of them kind of work together and take turns. And so overall, it was really helpful and it was really successful. And did it necessarily make bedtime go smoother? It's hard to say. Did it make it more fun? Were we more engaged and connected? Absolutely, which is ultimately what we need in order to go to sleep. We need to feel safe and secure. So it was really fun. It was a good experience.
Great. So I think the whole moral of this video, the goal here was just to kind of show you what it's like to create and implement a sensory diet routine at home for busy parents, busy working parents, and just hopefully give you some ideas on how you can do it at home as well.
Yeah, and also for therapists, having that empathy and sending home exercise programs that are realistic that families can carry over and asking them what they can complete, like what realistically can you complete. And then we came back and I was like, look, it's not happening in the morning. Okay, that's great, we're going to modify, we're going to do it, but making sure that you are meeting them where they're at and not giving them just this overwhelming amount of information and things to do. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, hopefully it was helpful.
Yep. Okay, bye.